Let's have some fun. Let's build something useful, something creative, something productive, something that is affordable, and something that is more interesting and more advanced than the things that we are used to create in the past. What are exactly those? Those are the self-watering flower pots, the different versions of them, the different progressions and the different evolution of the self-watering flower pots. Just the basic one at the edge, when we have a flower pot on top, some space or air or gases, and at the bottom and at the lower bottom the deposit of the water. Or we can also alternatively have at the other edge of the spectrum, you can have a flower pot that has a plant, soil, stone and a little bit of moisture inside of the soil or at the bottom. When we want to build a future that is better than the past, we need to create something that is more advanced, that has a higher abstraction or a better combination of things than we used to do in the past. We can combine those two designs. We can combine the flower pot that is without the water deposit. We can combine it with the one that has the water container, but also air at the bottom. Let's look at the different designs in the preparation of the whole idea. So the final idea is going to be this one. Plants at the top, some seeds that started to sprout, soil. By the way, those are the waste material of the typical households that consumes bottled water, mineral water. Those are mineral water bottles, PET, 1, plastic. At the bottom we see a water deposit with some algae, green algae, and there is some space of air. Different plants, they do different in a different soil. Some plants, they like the soil to be wet, some like them to be dry, some like to have some stones at the bottom of their roots, the others like to have water at the bottom of their roots. In case of this flower, it likes the water. The fern over there, it likes wet, moist ground. In case of the lavender or rosemary, they like some stones at the bottom. So they really like to have their roots in the stone. And what we are going to do, we are going to build and to create a very advanced flower pot, a self-watering one that uses the moisture of the bottom to transmit the moisture slowly up to the upper levels of the plant, of the roots, and to keep the soil wet but not excessively wet, as in case of the example in the middle. This is the single plastic bottle with a small amount of space for the water that gets collected at the bottom and overflows through the holes that are a little bit 5 centimeters from the ground, or 3.5 or 4 centimeters from the ground. The water outflows and flows out. So they're constantly water and the lower part is constantly wet. Some plants, they don't like this because their roots start to rot and they don't like constant moisture. Aquatic plants, they like it very much, but other plants don't. So the idea of the more advanced version of this would be to just get enough moisture into the soil while having the container and also a little bit of gas and air at the bottom, just like this one. And we must be creative, we must keep the same budget, we must make it out of the trash. That's the whole concept and the whole idea. So let's do that. The tools and the materials of this project, of this self-watering flower pot, are very basic. Almost anybody in the world can do it, apart from the North Pole and the South Pole. Or maybe even up there they have plastic bottles as a waste material for a household. So the whole sequence of the building project is we need one tool, moderately sharp knife, one larger plastic bottle and one smaller one that would fit inside of the larger one. And the advanced thing all about this project is this wet paper towel tissue, the plastic one made from the, I don't know what it's made from, but it's plastic, it doesn't rot, it does not get degraded in the soil nor in the water. So we can use this one as the conveyor or as the transmission for the water from the water container to the soil, and also as a filter so the soil does not get stuck or does not flow into the water, only the water itself. So it's gonna be like that. And the synthetic paper towel, which people use for wiping out the beautiful upper legs of the babies when they are young and when they need assistance from their parents. Okay, that's gonna be in the water, and the wet synthetic towel is going to transmit the wetness of the water to the soil, slowly and moderately. Another advanced idea or advanced concept was going to be the ceramic. Is the industrial ceramic or burnt ceramic, fixed ceramic. It's not clay, it's clay, but it is fixed in its shape and form. Just the old brick which we will recycle, upcycle. Crushed ceramic brick. Ceramic is a wonderful material that is able to absorb water and keep itself hydrated at all times, as long as there is some wetness in the ambience, in the ground and the soil, in the air is always going to be wet. So we're going to use this property of the ceramic and use it as the base layer of the self-watering flower pot. The first and the most important step is going to be to cut the upper edge of the larger bottle so that it does fit the smaller one in reverse, just like that. And it has to be cut a little bit precisely with patience, so that it's more straight and beautiful. Let's do that, and then I'll cut the small bottle, just the opening from the bottom. So it's going to be, the small one is going to be in reverse in the large one. Let's cut that and see how it turns out. Ta-da-da-da! The cutting is magically done. Not in the live action, but it's done. In here the larger bottle now has no upper part and the lower bottle has no down part. So we can stuck it into the larger bottle, and the upper part of the larger bottle, which is the cap part, we can use also as the base. This is an essential trick for this project. So in here there is going to be the water part of the self-watering advanced flower pot that we can also send to Mars if we wanted to. Here's going to be the water part, and here's going to be the air part. And we can just fit one bottle into the other. And because it was possible to cut the cap of the smaller plastic bottle for the water to fall down, so it's going to filter the water and keep the soil inside and transmit the moisture from below through the synthetic towel or synthetic filter if you have some, or any other synthetic textile that doesn't rot. So it's going to transmit the moisture to the soil of the plant. Let's just feed this in. Those are the small parts of the job that yes, it's only fit like this. The cup fits into the, so it can stand on itself. And the whole structure is supposedly fits into the just as in crafting, just apply pressure and see what happens. Okay, and at the bottom we can select how much water should be in the container. If it's like an arid desert area, maybe a little bit more. If it rains too much, maybe, or if it's going to be inside when the water doesn't evaporate that much, maybe a little bit less. So we can structure and we can define how much water we want at the bottom, and where we want the water to exit. We make a small hole, like a little cross with a knife. Let's do all that, let's assemble it and soften the edges with a lighter gas lighter. Because heat, it melts and shrinks the plastics a little bit. So it's gonna soften the edges. The magic and the productivity did happen. The ceramic brick could not resist the hammer, and the plastic could not resist the knife and the fire. The steps that I made is I crushed the ceramic brick, and now it's inside, to create a nice layer of the bottom layer of the moisture. Ceramic also will suck the ambient moisture into itself and keep itself wet when there is any moisture. At the bottom we see a small hole for the water to exit. It can be multiple holes if you want to increase the amount of ambient air or ambient gases in the lower compartment. This part is going to be water and this part is going to be air, or like that one, and the upper is going to be the soil. After fitting the two bottles together, so let's go through this once again. So we have a larger plastic bottle, the upper part, the cup part of the bottle inside of the cup. I was fortunate enough that I have two different plastic bottles from two different supermarkets. the smaller plastic bottle did fit inside of the larger one, and it did fit exactly into the mouth or the neck or the plastic cup bit of the larger one, so they kind of fit together perfectly and they create a stand. It's not necessarily that they fit together perfectly, they can also support each other just by blocking or supporting the weight of the upper plastic bottle. So we have like a support, base of support, so then we have the filter part, which is going to filter out the water and the soil. We have the ceramic bits, the crushed ceramic brick or any ceramic pottery if you want, which will create the atmosphere of moisture at the bottom, and the soil is going to be moderately wet, not soaked in water, but it's going to be wet all the time. So it's a self-watering flower pot. The upper part I applied fire to make it more smooth or more robust, just in that way. Quick movements with fire. And I applied fire at the edge of the larger plastic bottle where it exactly fits, so that when the plastic is heated it shrinks and it wraps itself around the edge. So I did those, and when there is a hole, where is a hole that was made with a knife, a small hole which becomes larger if you heat it up with a fire. So these are very basic steps, very basic tools, very basic materials. It's more talking than working. One can do this type of project in anywhere where the plastic bottles do exist, different sizes of plastic bottles. Now let's get some plants into this newly created self-watering advanced flower pot, which was basically free because I had all the materials from the trash, household trash. Now let's get those fresh plants into this new creation. Let's see how it looks like. The transplantation of the sprouts, the roots and the plants into the flowering pot with the soil is done. The project is complete. Now we can strap or pack this new self-contained flower pot into the rocket and ship it off to Mars to grow on Mars, on other planets and moons. Or the second best idea, we can put it up into the tree where there is enough rain and the vines will spread themselves in the tree. Not from the ground, from the top of the tree itself. They will travel to the ground when they need to travel. I have made positive experiences with this plant and have done this before, so this type of transplantation, this plant did sprout roots, so they are perfect for transplanting because they already have roots, they just need soil and moisture to start a new colony of this plant, the vine, the poison ivy. And just to repeat once again, basic tools, basic materials, wonderful result. And now comes the question, why do we need to do this? Why do we do this? Why not just have the small, simple and like ready-made product that we can buy in the markets and supermarkets and shops in the streets? Why would we need to do this one? What's our motivation? Why do we want to do things in life? Because it's fun, because it's interesting, because we feel useful, because it's an adventure. And in the case of plants, we like plants, we grow them for food, we grow them for furniture, we construct housing out of their bodies, we construct our clothes, we build, we give them to our animals to eat, we feed on them, we like them, they create medicine for us. We feel naturally relaxed and healthy and excited, or maybe let's say tranquil and peaceful around the plants. Basically, the humans and the plants, they are the best friends on the planet, and without them we wouldn't survive. We want to send the plants to other planets, to other moons, to other places where we want to live, if we ever want to live there. We have created a symbiosis with plants, and anything that's related to plants is fun. And if it's a simple project just like this, to build a self-watering flower pot that is self-contained, doesn't require much maintenance, let's do that. It's awesome fun, and we can have new benefits from new ideas, from new creative products, new creative creations. In the case of this one, there is water at the bottom, there is crushed ceramic which will contain moisture, which will transmit the moisture to the soil. A little bit of rain might fall into the upper entry of the container if there is enough rain. Or we could also construct like a collection system for the raindrops that will drip into that will be funneled into the self-contained ecosystem of this self-watering flower pot. So it's self-contained, it doesn't need much maintenance. We can go on vacation for a month or two, it will be still okay if it's out in the open, has light, has rain, has water, we don't have to care about it. And now comes the second benefit. We can use this as a form of architecture. We can put this, because it's self-contained, it doesn't require any additional soil or watering as long as it has access to rain. We can put it up into the buildings, into the structures of our cities. It doesn't have to be on the ground, it can be in the air, stacked on top of each other in towers. We can put it on the side of the walls, we can put it onto the roof, we can put it on the sides of the tree trunk, we can put it anywhere where there is vertical space, horizontal space, anywhere where there is a little bit of rain and a little bit of light, enough rain throughout the year. It doesn't have to be on the ground anymore, as long as it's self-contained and it can be fixed to the spot where we want to put it. In this case, it's gonna grow on the side of the wall of the house, and it's gonna be placed on the house, and the water is gonna drip into the container, and the vines are going to grow on the walls of the house. It's not gonna be physically on the ground, it's gonna be multiple stories above the ground, 3 or 4. And the vines are going to grow on the wall of the house. I hope you like it, you make your own version of this advanced. And why do you want to advance? Anyway, you want to push things forward. You want to create a better version of something that already existed before. Before we just had water, like flower pots, the simple basic one. And then if we stick them into the bottle with some water on below and some synthetic towel, then the towel is going to be wet and it keeps the roots wet, and the fern in this case is happy, the flower is happy, the vines are happy, the rosemary and a mutated dandelion is happy. There are multiple reasons and multiple motivations to do a product like this, but the first reason, because it's fun and because we can do it just with basic materials. It's good to be the friend of the plants, on our planet at least. Let's do that, let's create a better version, let's put them up everywhere we can and create more green environments in our cities or in our living spaces. And maybe later we can also transmit the same advanced versions to other planets, where we can create self-sustained systems and self-contained flower pots that we can send to other planets or moons, and when they can grow in a self-contained environment. But before that we have to experiment, and the experiments, they start like this, with these simple steps, simple versions, version 1, version 2, version 3, version 4, version 5. And the 100th version, we figure it out how to construct the best and self-contained environment for a plant. Maybe ants, maybe mushrooms, whatever you want to grow in them. It's a massive, fun project which doesn't require much time. It can be done basically in 1 hour if you want to, if you have all the materials and plants or seeds and soil. Make a positive contribution in the comment, maybe like your own version of this, what have you learned from this? If you build one of those, let's spread the knowledge, create a better future when we create small basic positive steps in our daily life and for our own environment. If we can build the self-contained, defined, self-sustaining container for the plant that has water, where the roots can grow, where the plant has storage of water and the storage of nutrients inside, then we can also stack those containers. We can stack them in 2, 3, 4, 5. We can build towers. Towers that are taller than trees and simulate a vertical garden on a small environment in the small spot. So in this case the container is only occupying that much of the surface area, but because it's a vertical self-contained system, it can be as tall or taller than a tree. Just like those towers over there. So the architecture of the containers and the city structures can incorporate self-contained, self-watering flower pots. This might provide us an opportunity to create something new, something that was not existing before in nature. It's basically a plant, a very hardy plant in a tube. That one can grow with atmospheric water, the water in the air. Just like that. In the wild on the street. The different designs of the self-watering flower pots allow us to build different structures for different plants. In this case, a ring, a continuous ring, which is also a flower pot for a very hardy plant. This ring doesn't have any irrigation, it stores water from the rain. And it's some amount of time it's supposed to look like this, all of this ring. It's like as if the plants take over the architecture. That's the final goal, to blend architecture with nature, to combine a full-scale symbiosis where the plants use the architecture as a structure, as a solid base for growth. People like plants. Animals like plants too. Virtually everybody of us on the planet Earth likes plants. The rich people like to surround themselves with plants. The poor people like to surround themselves with plants. We grow them, we eat them, we make food from them, we feed them to our animals, we make clothing from them, we make decorations from them. We build our houses from wood, from plants. We like to surround ourselves with plants. We have a strong natural connection with plants. And there is a conflict. We also like to be in society. We like to be in an urban environment. We like to be where other people are, where the shops are, where we have convenience. We love to live in the city, where there's some kind of movement, some kind of interesting things. And we also love to live in nature. This is a huge conflict. The space fight, the fight between the plants and the urban environment can be tough. You can put plants in the balconies, in the terraces, in the parks. And we could also put them in self-sustaining, self-watering containers and just put them anywhere, like on the corners of buildings, on top of the buildings, on the pillars, on lampposts. When there is no space in the tough urban environment, especially in the old city centers, we need to rethink where we grow the plants, because the ground is already occupied. And if the ground is occupied, we have to grow the plants on top of the existing structures, lampposts, walls, maybe cables, and the self-sustaining, self-watering flower pots and plant pots, they are perfect for that. That's what we can do to increase the amount of plants in our cities. Plants can be tough, they can be very, very tough, much stronger than the animals. If you provide them a little bit of space and a little bit of resources, they can even grow in concrete. There are very strong plants that grow in concrete and can conquer the deserts, maybe even other planets, if we allow them to do so, if we provide a minimal basic start. And here's a great example that the plants don't have to live on the ground, they can also live in the air. If we provide them a self-contained environment, a self-contained container to grow, they can also grow in the air, just disconnected from the ground totally. There is no physical connection. Same principle, same idea, different container. Wonderful result. Over there, same thing. Disconnected from the ground in a self-contained container. Where space or the ground is an issue, we can provide a plant with a different system and a different environment where they can grow beautifully. Look at those beautiful tree trunks, majestic, elegant, tall, strong. They also can provide space for other plants. What if we just put a bucket, self-sustaining bucket with a plant on the side of the trunk, or maybe various ones, like 10 of those? It could be a vertical garden that is created on the tree. The self-watering flower pots are very useful for that. We can put them on the walls, on the trees, on the roofs, on the balconies, on the ground, on any surface, vertical, horizontal, diagonal, in the air, on the cable. We can put them anywhere as long as there is some type of rain which can be collected in the bucket at the bottom of the bucket. So possible. Another example of creative gardening or planting of plants is to plant vines at the base of the trees, and then they grow out like that, just like that. Green throughout the year, winter, autumn, spring and summer, which all starts at the base, the start or the initial start of the plant. That's what makes it all possible. An idea can generate a wonderful result. If we provide the proper structure for the plants, they can provide an interesting environment for us. In this case, a tunnel of plants. Just imagine what we could build with the self-containing flower pots if we can stack them, put them on walls, put them in towers, put them anywhere we want. The limits of this type of technology would be only by the creativity and the format of the self-containing flower pot.